Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for today's reading. This event is brought to you by the Poets and Writers Coalition at San Jose State. My name is Gabrielle LaFrank, and I am a very proud former president and member of the Poets and Writers Coalition. Since we have about 15 minutes before the event begins, we thought it might be a fun idea to go over a few poetry and San Jose related trivia questions and fun facts that you may not already know. Did you know that April is National Poetry Month? In fact, this year is the 25th anniversary of the celebration. In 1966, this event was founded by the Academy of American Poets. What began as a very small, very limited celebration in a few classrooms across the United States has now grown into one of the world's largest literary festivals. Today's reading is brought to you by the Poets and Writers Coalition at San Jose State. This student-led club was founded by the incredibly talented Rachelle Escamilla, who actually will be joining us for today's reading. So make sure you stay tuned to get to know Rachelle and a little bit more about the club. Last year's Legacy of Poetry Festival was the first held completely online, thanks to the very hard work and dedication of the PWC, the Poets and Writers Coalition, and many of the talented staff here at San Jose State. The theme of last year's festival was Staying Home, the Way to San Jose, which celebrated the city we all know and love. We're so excited to have many returning poets from last year, so stay tuned and see if you can catch a few more events before this festival wraps up. Thank you again for all of your support this week and throughout the year as we continue to run the Legacy of Poetry Festival a little bit differently. It's definitely been a year to remember, but we hope you'll enjoy it nonetheless. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being a part of the 2021 Legacy of Poetry Festival. We're so thrilled to have you with us. My name is Gabrielle LaFrank, and I am the former president of the Poets and Writers Coalition at San Jose State. Today, I'm thrilled to be one of your Emcees for this event. Today's reading features several of San Jose State's most accomplished student poets from current graduate and undergraduate programs. You'll also notice a few notable alumni from San Jose State and the Poets and Writers Coalition, including our founder, Rachelle Escamilla. Today's poets include Rachel Crawford, Rebecca Lee, Jackie Friedland, Gabrielle LaFrank, myself, and more, so please stay tuned. The Poets and Writers Coalition, or PWC as you'll probably hear us, is the student-led creative writing organization at San Jose State. This club is home to students of all years and majors, writers of all genre, and people from all walks of life. In weekly meetings, the PWC helps writers develop their craft through prompts, workshops, and the occasional guest speaker. To find out more, you can visit Poets and Writers Coalition at San Jose State on Facebook, or visit any of our Legacy of Poetry events in the coming week to find out a little more. Directly after today's event, the Diasporic Peoples Writing Collective, or DPWC, will host an hour-long reading on our festival's theme, Closing the Distance, Sheltering in Technology. The DPWC is a student-run organization at San Jose State which brings together writers from all backgrounds to share experiences and build supportive platforms for underrepresented writers. To find out more, you can visit their website at dpwc2020.com. April is National Poetry Month, and I could not think of a better way to celebrate than by coming together through verse. Thank you again for being a part of this completely online festival, the second in its kind after last year's COVID-19 pandemic. Let's get started.
I'm Rebecca, your other MC for this event and the current president of the Poets and Writers Coalition. I'm an English undergraduate student studying professional and creative writing. I hope to continue to create collaboratively in the future. The Legacy of Poetry Festival is ongoing at SJSU and sponsored by SJSU's associated students. It is put on by the Poets and Writers Coalition student organization at SJSU every year, and we're very grateful for the school's support. So with the online format this year, we're hoping to reach students across California as well as the country and bringing in a lot of those elements. There have been some outstanding speakers and poets so far, including SJSU staff and nationally acclaimed writers. It's great for SJSU student poets to showcase their talent and hear from peers who are writing in and out of classes. We'll continue to hear from them today. I have the pleasure of knowing a lot of these poets, and I'm very excited to hear from them. Make sure to take notes of the organizations here today as well. Other great SJSU student organizations are Typo, the Young Professional and Technical Writing Offensive, and Grades for master students, or the Graduate Resource and Academic Development for English Student Studies Club. There's also the Diasporic People's Writing Collective, which will be presenting their poets in the next segment.
Hello, my name is Jackie Friedland, and here is my poem, Shelter. Shelter, a place to hide, to run, to escape. One does not want to go to a shelter. Shelters are a last resort, transitory, impermanent, fragile. Yet, in we go, fleeing, sprinting, tripping. The faster you get in, the quieter it gets. The doors can be shut, locked, barred, swallow the key. But the thing is, you can't stay in a shelter forever. Something is going to break it down. Elections, trolls, reality. You're going to have to come back out. Face the things you are running from. But for now, disassociate, huddle, breathe. Shelter. Thank you. Here's my second poem, Faded. The world is a loud place. When you live in one of the busiest cities in the Bay Area, banging, shouting, crashing, it never stops. Even when you honestly wished you could just sleep at 5 a.m. It drove me insane. Screaming, falling, blasting, it never stops. I tried everything, ignoring, muting, deleting. I thought nothing would ever silence the city. Then, it did. The noise that drove me insane made me to listen at unhealthy volumes. It stopped. Quiet, empty, silent. The city stopped fighting me. I thought I had finally won the battle. But it turns out that when your world is a city, the noise is what gives it life. It is the people, bustling, laughing, running. Without it, a city is merely uncanny, broken, sad. Faded. Thank you. My third poem is Blink, Blink, Blink. Blink, blink, blink. No change. An untouched, unread, unseen message on the screen. But blink, blink, blink. No change. Maybe they are busy. Gotta walk the dog, cook dinner, and clean the blinds. But blink, blink, blink. No change. Maybe they got in an accident. A car accident, a lab accident, a shopping accident. But Blink, blink, blink. No change. Maybe something personal. A dead relative, dead cat, dead ex, but blink, blink, blink. No change. Maybe it is me. Too sarcastic, too naive, too loud, but blink, blink, blink. No change. Maybe I should give up. Turn off, unplug, disconnect. But blink, blink, blink. No change. Maybe they will see it. Read, digest, process. But blink, blink, blink. No change. Thank you.
I'm Rachelle Crawford. I'm an MFA student at San Jose State University with a primary in poetry and a secondary in nonfiction. This poem is forthcoming in Read Magazine's first chapbook, Spring 2021. The Snow Cone. My rule was no snow cones in the house, which I said to everyone as I stood like a sentinel on the back porch. And when you came into the house holding a cup of blue ice, I said to you with a smile, like I said to everyone else, snow cones stay outside. You stopped and smiled at me like maybe I was kidding. I wasn't. Because at a party last year, someone spilled red wine on my white couch, and even though he quickly drove to the store to buy me some wine away, there is still a mark. So you walked back outside like a scolded child, crunching chunks of ice in your mouth, and looking over your shoulder to smile back at me and laugh. I wish I had let you in, because 2 months later in March you got sick of a disease you didn't know you had. In March you called the doctor and said you wanted to go into the hospital. In March they told you to stay home and shelter in place. 2 days later you died. And even though you didn't die from the virus so many are afraid to get, it sort of killed you anyway. Now, I sit on my couch, remembering how I turned you away too. I look down at the white fabric, already dirtied with wine stains, dust spots, and greasy hand marks, and I stare at an area of the fabric so clean and blank and empty. Outside my kitchen window during the COVID-19 pandemic shelter-in-place order. 2 sparrows fly in and out of the wooden birdhouse hanging on our fence. The opening no wider than an inch. They squeeze inside with leaves and stems to build a nest. I watch one arrive with a dried sprig more than twice the length of its body. The bird tries to push it in, the ends extending beyond the width of the house. The stick drops. The bird hops down, adjusts its grip, moves its beak left, then right, then all the way to the left. Its beak holds fast and tries to go inside head first again. The branch hits the edge of the house, swings back against the tail's bird, and drops. I want the sparrow to move on to another piece more maneuverable. I think it needs to gather leaf stems or pieces of tree bark, or the pollen from the plane tree that floats down like little fluffy propeller toys whirling on the wind. Instead, the little sparrow flies down to grab the stick again. It drops again. It picks it up again. I do not move. I watch the bird. I cannot see inside its house or why this sparrow needs this thing that will not fit. But I watch the bird. It snaps shut its beak once more onto the end of the stick and flies up, its claws gripping the circular opening, digging into the wood of the house. My hands grasp the edge of my sink. The bird leans back, its body parallel to the ground like a perch. It could slip at any moment. Without releasing its claws, the sparrow quickly jabs the stick into the house and ducks its head inside. as I release a breath I did not know I held.
Hello, I'm Falcon Ly, and I'm a freshman. I started writing poetry in my middle school year, and I'm still writing poetry today. My poem for the legacy of poetry is called Change. Change. It's scary when it suddenly comes, but sometimes change needs to happen. Pre-COVID, I remember me questioning my gender and being really confused. COVID hits, and I have to learn from home, from my own bedroom. But I'm really alone during this time? No, I wasn't. I remember being on Instagram and finding a group in which I joined their Discord group chat. This group was the first step for me of being in a welcoming space with people of the same community that I'm in. Time passes and I find more groups to join. Those groups of people who identify with the same labels that I use. It's okay to question my gender. It's okay to change the labels that I use, and it's okay to not know all the answers to the questions I have currently. 2 years have passed during the lockdown. I have changed my name, and found the labels that I'm comfortable with. I actually welcome this change. I'm tired of being put into certain boxes based on labels other people label me as. When I found out which label fits me, I am so happy to find my true identity. Yes, this will be a process and a long one, but I'm glad that I took the first step.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle LaFrank, and I am the former president of the Poets and Writers Coalition at San Jose State. Thank you again for having me back for another Legacy of Poetry Festival. This first piece today is titled Shelter. I used to hate the city noise, but now I hate the silence. I pace the apartment, 27 steps across, and count the tiny diamonds on my ring. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, 5G. We're supposed to be more connected than ever, but we've never been further apart. 6, 7, 8 little stones in a sterling silver lining. Silence leaves space for introspection. Regrets where friends should be. Conversations with my conscience in place of acquaintance. As if the sound of you is all that I need. As if the earth ends outside these four walls of the feeling that I used to call home. Some can only trust in what they cannot see, injecting thoughts and prayers to cure a disease they don't believe in. Can you believe it's been a year since I last saw you? The hills were green and I was warm, lying cozy in the bed of ignorance. Pillows over my ears so I can't hear the fading symphony of cities. Ringtones rip me from the reverie. The screen was my everything. The will to say what my lips will not, to company whose presence I've long forgotten. Look, but do not touch. They hear, but they don't listen. This type of time can't be measured in minutes. Even months cannot be trusted. When exactly did our almanacs go digital? When we turned from the clouds to the cloud? When did our ears turn in and our eyes turn down? Lifetimes ago, someone decided it was just too scary to look. Anything beyond perfect just wasn't meant for us. They scroll past every plea, every cry of grief that isn't their own, and settle back into something more comfortable. They build shelters from twigs of ignorance, and no one bothers to knock them down. Thank you. The second poem of mine is called Expectations. Expectations catalog us as people. We segregate ourselves into colors of hate. We don't think, we take from the martyr we will never have to face. Defile their God to prove holy your own. Go bathe in your blessedness and chastise their filth just to preach your own omniscience. So asleep in life and afterlife, intent on a title and degree, immortality on the mind, on the tongue interpretation of uncertain life, when the only truth is that we will never know. Thank you again.
Hi, my name is Rachelle Escamilla, and I'm here. I'm super excited to be part of Legacy of Poetry Day. So I was asked to talk about the origins of the Poets and Writers Coalition because it was an organization that I started many years ago in 2007, I believe. So I'm just going to go ahead and read what I wrote about the PWC. So the Poets and Writers Coalition began as a dream I had. In that dream, students were mingling and laughing and enjoying each other's company. Students who walked through the door were welcomed, and we were drinking cocktails that were named after poets and poems. But the context for that dream comes from a place that is not so friendly. I am a first-generation college student and the daughter of campesinos and cannery workers and wage slaves. I often skipped school as a child to clean houses with my mother, and I worked the apricot orchards in the summers. I was a transfer student to San Jose State from Gabrielle College, and while I was launching the PWC, I was a full-time preschool teacher and a full-time student. In other words, I struggled. When I arrived at the English department at San Jose State, I came across a culture of exclusivity that did not include students like me. The student club at the time was not very welcoming, and that was really hard. I felt othered and excluded. The way I was treated didn't make me mad or sad. It made me feel sorry for the people who couldn't see how amazing all students are, how our differences and struggles and voices had places of intersection, and that the diversity of my undervalued voice was a gift, not something to be ashamed of. So I set out to make a place for myself. And in doing so, I made a place for many other students of color, students from other departments, older students, and students who felt othered or didn't feel welcomed. The original P-Dub were misfits. We put on the school's biggest poetry event, which was Legacy of Poetry, which is now Legacy of Poetry Day. I won the best president from Associated Students, and we went to AWP New York. We enjoyed each other as a group. We enjoyed each other's company. We laughed, we built community, and many of us are still friends today. I don't know if the PWC is still the same as it was when I started it, but I hope that everyone who comes through their doors is welcomed with openness and community, and with a willingness to cultivate and support everyone's voice, everyone's ideas, and everyone's story. So thanks, PWC, for still existing. I hope all of you students are doing a great job. I'm sure you are. I mean, if Legacy of Poetry Day is still going on. So I'm going to read from my second book. My first book of poems is Imaginary Animal, and that's set in the sort of fields of San Benito County, and that's my family, and talks a lot about sort of Chicanidad and Latinidad and agricultural work. But the second book I wrote when I was at University of Pittsburgh, and it's a continuation of that, and it's really more, I think, it's the exploration of a Chicana daughter without any culture around her, because in Pittsburgh at the time I was the only student of color in the entire department. I mean, in the entire MFA program in my cohort. So that was really difficult. So anyway, I'm going to read from there. So here we go. In the fall, the hills are 2 times a day. I pass the apartment on Bayard and rub my body against the Obama poster. This is set in 2008, by the way. Obama, Biden, Bayard, banana muffins, Pittsburgh morning. Has it been more than 40 days? Do you remember your body in her hands, her hard hands that are dull, brown, callous, and scrape you until you can't take it anymore? You've never had hands like hers. They taste like onions and can grip tomatoes. They peel like onions, burnt almond body. I'm beneath you, remember? I'm soft now. Watch me touch these bodies. Look, I'm soft now, softest when I touch parking meters. So the book is about a girl just exploring the world, Pittsburgh, loving the space out there. I mean, it's a beautiful old city. Also thinking about Robinson Jeffers, thinking about Willa Cather, thinking about a lot of the writers who came from that area. This poem is called Sistina, and it's a play on Elizabeth Bishop's Sestina, but it's cyst, like a cyst. You know, they found a cyst today, I thought of you. They found another cyst, the old ones are still. They found a cyst today, I thought of you, the way you looked, I looked at you from a yellow cab, your cap bopping on Baum Boulevard. They found a cyst today and it was round and bobbing on the monitor. It leaned on my ovary like your head on my shoulder. I swing the creaking swing on Shenley and watched you PMC in the foreground with a gloved hand down on my belly. Do you have family here? No. Can someone pick you up from the hospital? I can walk. Do you have friends? One. Can he pick you up? Not today. They found a cyst today and I laughed as I walked into the Saturday morning sun in winter cold air, cotton throat, and I am tickled. They found a cyst today sitting on my ovary, drooping on, resting on. I thought of you, my mister. I thought of you when they found a cyst and snapped a bracelet on my wrist. I'm going to finish with 2 poems. So when I was in Pittsburgh, I was alone and it was the first time I had health insurance. And so I went through a lot of diagnoses that turned out to be poverty-related illnesses. And so the book also explores that. I should have said that before the cyst poem, but now you have the context for that. You can rewind it, it's a video, yay! Okay, so I'm gonna finish with these 2 poems. I walked to Shenley Park today. The weather was, yes, okay. 1 footfall and then the next, I heard your ping, looked down to see a text. Rough days, you said. And the sky beyond the conservatory was cornflower, 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 cornflower blue behind white cornflower glass. The tiny pelicans on the soft edged crosses of the conservatory roof sang, no, they echoed your ping, your soft ping, between cornflower ping. We are a pelican song. We are a soft whistle. We are nothing, really. Dear Pittsburgh, there are times when you look at me, I don't see you, you see me. You come from out the tunnel. You drive beyond the yellow church. I sat there today. Did you see me? There are times when I think of you so far away in a place that is gray. I am here, and there you are. We've been here before. When you come into my bed, you watch my light, you say, you look good naked. I say, stay, stay. I say my dear, say dear, stay, my dear. I offer you food, you say, I'm okay. You're tired, I say, and worn, I say. Good man, stay, I say, stay good. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Paul Amaral, and I'm a history major and Native American Studies minor at San Jose State. My quarantine experience has been a little wonky, as everyone else's, but what really occurred to me for my quarantine experience really comes down to how it came all together after one meeting with the professor. I was discussing with the professor about a topic paper in one of my courses last semester, and I haven't heard my professor's voice for some time, and it came to me how important it is for me to hear the voice of people when I do learn, especially from people who I've worked with in the past, and now I'm not hearing them these days. I'm not hearing from my friends. I'm not hearing from my elders. It's not like I can simply go in with all the asynchronous classes going on right now. So afterwards, I could not help but feel the welling sadness developing from how much I miss these people and how much some people just don't understand the harm that they've committed when they've took up asynchronous classes as a means to teach. So, through my poem, Missing You in the Stars, I will tell you about my quarantine experiences. Under the waters of this pond, I looked to the heavens and wondered what time meant to me. I used to see you in a routine. I used to hear you. Now your voice accompanies me in my studies. I can tell when you joke or emphasize topics. I just wish I can hear you again and learn from an elder I admire and adore. Yet, what happened to the stars beheld in the arms of the sky? I cannot describe them vividly, but I can remember what they are like. I recall their stories. Now, the waters that they tossed me in are muck my sight. Yet I feel and I fear that if I don't try to recall those stories, then I'll lose you to the world that we believe in. I see the murky blue of the night and the faint moonlight. I see the shadows of stone, the ancient uncovered. What I cannot, oh, what I cannot see is how this time is fragile. I cannot see it, but I feel it. My tears shed into the water like blood on the canvas of life. Am I lost again, but by their hands? Have they held these burdens within their arms? Have they lost the beauty of those they cared about? Do they see that they are murderers in their own guise? They prematurely intern us to rest here. They forgone the sanctity of our time. They fill it with the tears of those who needed aid, such as mine, all while they lounge in their silence of the decaying world. My tears should be used to bring fertility of our lives and cherish the moments we have. Not like this. Not for their success. It grows colder here. What have I done to deserve this? I lost time in its meaning. Has the star changed? Are the sisters rising again? I lost the right to be with you. I grow malnourished in a rotten tomb. I want to shine and perform for you, my elder. You helped me recover knowledge so that I can learn more about myself, my elder. I want to recover what is lost or abandoned. I want to know why they are gone, why they disappeared. Thus, I will bring myself whole. The way to do so is lost. So they they know not of what being lost to themselves. They only speculate on the harms they committed. Why do they lie to themselves so foolishly? How long will it be for them to drain the depression they created out of the land they soiled? To realize that they rendered themselves worthless? I do not see or hear them, nor do I recognize them as those I need to confront. They lost what made them needed. Wait, I see something crimson. I see jasper. I see something growing next to me from the silt and corpses. What do they know about repairing time and clarity? They remain oblivious to the ancient force directing itself. They blinded themselves with opalescent trees and amber-covered bark. All they see is silt as the soil clogging at their sight. My only virtue is to find a stump, wish it to grow, beg it to live, and return me. I refuse to accept it as my end. I will try to breach through my tears. I shall learn from you, no longer catching up to you. So no longer will their parasitic antics amputate me with dysfunctional operations. I miss those whom I lost and want to share themselves again. I will not miss those who harmed me, believing their absence is acceptable. I rise to break the sadness and lies, for I shall return to you. I will not be lost. I will not give in. I will remember. I will see the stars again, one way or another, and I will tell you what I see. Thank you for your time today.
I'm Rebecca, and this is the Poets and Writers Coalition group reading for Closing the Distance, Sheltering in Technology. This poem is called Helpline Calls. There's a primal scream hotline from the New York Times. There's a poetry hotline from the Philadelphia Poet Laureate. There's a website where you can watch out someone else's window. There's a podcast called Our Plague Year that I listen to. There's a quarantine chat that will connect you to someone else in quarantine. There are hundreds of virtual tours of the places you miss, of the places you've never been, of places you have never thought about before. There are live cameras on whales and penguins and large fish and small fish and elephants and lions. Want to see a platypus? A polar bear? There is a new little free library in my neighborhood. There were fireworks outside with no one else in sight. It felt like an acknowledgement of celebration. It felt like all the holidays at once. There are people playing at the park. There's a NASA live cam of Mars from the Curiosity rover. There's Perseverance out in the stars. Take a walk in Yellowstone, at the Louvre, at the Great Wall of China. Peek into someone else's life. There are people trying to reach you. I savor the knowledge that I'm not alone in this feeling. I see residue of life out of the corners of my eyes. Recently, it feels like I'm driving on a highway in a packed car with everyone else asleep. I can't take my eyes off the road, but I can hear them breathing. There's always the news. I know the crisis text lines. I know that we're listing the ways we're afraid for each other. That doesn't stop us from reaching out. Make yourself comfortable. Share what you know. Start a game, start a conversation. Find places you want to share yourself. We can still leave each other a little happier. There's only so much of us these days. It's creating rituals and new beginnings, telling others who you are. Hello again. I'm new with me this week. I'm always starting over. Insomnia. Your insides float, you cannot sleep, but what is one more passing sheet? Your mind is set, your eyes wide open. It's time to think instead of hoping. Make sure to settle somewhere nice, and do not choose the saddest spice. The story's primed, your noggin ready, though night can make your eyelids heavy. The audience is breathless in the quiet, but that's what stars are for. The story can begin without the chatter of insane amounts that echoes in and out the brain. You bake this story cake to drain. Narrate yourself in kitchen gear, a rucksack full of tiny deer, a companion with large fluffy ears, and a pair of knives to match. To start your story arc off right, prepare a way to clear your sight. The danger is just out of light to begin your epic quest. Time to face the dragon and defeat it with a mighty weapon. It's time to punch the fearsome force that frightens, oh, it's time to find your staff. The avenues your story takes are full of drama and high stakes, but the night is lovely and sometimes lonesome. It's time to make this story wholesome and watch the time pass by. Are you listening to silence? Are you readying for bed? Are you watching a horizon hoping it gets up instead? Are you rotating around an axis? Are you eating a steamed bun? As a lone face tilted upwards, it can be easy to feel small, but someday you'll find you're made of starlight and the matter in us all. If you meet silence at the sunrise, you can say I said hello. It will be my final message. You're the new star of this show.
Hi everyone, my name is AJ MacKillop and I'm an MFA student in Poetry and Creative Nonfiction. Today I'll be reading 4 sonnets, the first 2 of which address the theme of sheltering and technologies, and the second 2 that are a bit looser in structure and don't rhyme so much. Sign me in. I've never met a soul that I'd claim to know in months of slow movement through half-shuttered blocks. Just guarded half-faces or the odd brazen show, when street troops of one give unscheduled talks. Most minutes pass lonely since I first marked time, except in classrooms, card rooms, work sites, a bar, or running lines with fellow hermits gathered outside in wild array, strange, like family for an hour. So let me turn on and tune in to this feast. Sober and showered, I can learn a lesson. I can't drop out unless my book gets released, which I will first need to write, I'm guessing. These connections are vital to my inner wiring, though 6 hours of Zoom is beyond effing tiring. Yes, I have no nostalgia today. Clicking back, I've rarely felt so connected. By threads of live fear, record this solo display. Screen through a mask untouched and well protected. I watch love from my nameless new neighbors decay. Flee contagion with immersion, settle in and soak, 1 digit at a time in our spaced out lagoons. Forget deathbed goodbyes to beloved lives, called in by kind strangers from sterilized rooms. But loss is not apocalyptic clickbait rhymes that crush cheerful causes then pose for applause, that never comes from the heart despite unison chimes, no matter what streams out of devices or jaws. But I'm too alone these dead days to power down, full of sadness, rage, hope. I got a text just now. Sadder and wiser, still hungry. I saw Coleridge in a smoky vision, talking with an albatross he sketched himself, on the roof of the house of discount meats, where I go to get apples and spinach and grotesque pizzas alongside the beer. Then Sam and the bird both wafted away, and the mercantile shine of that inner space, uncrowded like another Xanadu, a pleasure dome of selfish abandon, blinding bare inklings of unpackaged thinking, intercom overwhelming stray murmurs of the heart muscle working a double shift to float a corpus that gives no respect, except to the paltry savings of waste. And lastly, unequal to the job. The squawking flocks came home to roost in San Jose, where they also get hatched. Loons and crows, but they all have names, and pants or remnants thereof, anyhow. Predators keep their beaks and talons clean, with hawk-like stares away from ruffled chirpers. Now that birds of prayer can't flock together, did the hand of charity get pecked to a pulp? Was it left exposed and marked unsanitized? Or maybe the wings of the dove got broken, while nobody tended this outdoor refuge, or rinsed away piles of droppings and feathers. Sometimes the little birdie can't be saved. We still need to plant and scatter good seeds. Thank you.
My name is Alexandra Carrillo, and I'll be reading my poems Transformers and Vintage Values. Transformers. A rare night that we've been left alone, my mother rents Bumblebee for us to watch together, even though Transformers represents to her failure and a mortgage not paid, a husband that cared more for Japanese toys than a house for their children. We watch a girl fall in love with a transforming car, and I see the girlhood that I tried to carve out for myself from balls of mud and boxes of Transformers. I find everything I've been looking for in the dusty pages of comics from the 80s. I feel like my father should be watching, like when we shared old VHS tapes that my father made in the 80s of reruns, cheering on our favorite robots as they clunked their way into battle. My father's obsession with collecting filled our home with boxed toys, but piles of bills forced him to sell his collection of memorabilia, and I would find leftover pieces sometimes. A packet of unused birthday napkins, with Optimus Prime staring through the discolored plastic. A business card with my father's name and phone number, advertising toys and games sold worldwide. Or a holographic ruler winking from the bottom of the box in the garage, its shining surface covered with Autobots and Decepticons in temporary truce. Vintage Values. I wandered the antique stores of San Jose thinking how I have never loved anything that wasn't just a little bit terrible. A poster of Madame Butterfly with an imperfect hand, lying at the edge of her kimono, greets me as I turn from the doorway, her curled fist like a shadow, ready to open, or an amateur's faulty brushstroke. I'm not alone in loving what's terrible. I pass a display case that holds black-skinned dolls, cherry red lips round their mouths into clown grins, and show me a past not yet past. I turn away, but the women behind the counter stare at how my hands move in and out of my pockets, so I walk deeper into the store. Shopping carts of dismembered dolls lead me down the spiral path of worn carpet to stare at frayed stitches, embroidered geishas that lounge near balding men with bulging foreheads. Beneath the glass, loose hairs of thread have escaped the cool needle of a forgotten artist. Was it a beginner's attempt at anatomy that distorts the foreign human shape upon the cloth into caricature, or hatred pressed into a silk scroll? I want to breathe, but breathless, foxes stare at me with glass eyes, with ripped fur. The pulpy leather edges brush my skin. I diminish through the front doorway as I try to shake off their spirit claws. I feel them gripping my arm as I walk to the car.
Lifting. Okay has grown quite heavy. I used to be able to lift pretty good, real easy. Heck, a temp used to be enough. Stop teasing me with gym promotions. Yeah, I'll refer a buddy. I've gotten quite good at rolling my eyes. Not that anyone would know. Not that that's something new. But I do miss seeing new faces. I miss the possibility of making new friends. I miss fighting for parking 2 hours before class. I miss screaming at traffic. I miss singing in traffic. I love being alone in my car. If only I could drive my room. I'd probably die too. I'd have to order a special vacuum from Germany just to clean, disassemble the bed frame just to remove the sheets. I've made my bed more in 2 semesters than I have in 5 years. Slim silver lining, I suppose. Can go for a morning run now, I suppose. Or more time for hobbies, I suppose. Nobody's ever asked me to play piano for them, though. A concert in my headphones, they hear obnoxious clacking notes. The lopsided growth the solitude promotes. Not that that's something new. But I miss having the choice to skip leg day. I miss having the choice to be alone. I miss the ease with which I could lie to myself and say that things would change, like holding up inflatable weights. You almost done with those, bro? No. And so, the Raiders would win if they wanted to. Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll learn a new language. Uh-huh. Maybe my brain's just out of space. That's it. And if not, I must reserve those wrinkles for my biggest fan. I've worked so very hard to impress him. 3 new pieces in a year. My face hasn't been clear in a year. I haven't not been stressed in a year. I haven't eaten well in a year. I miss my dermatologist. I miss having health insurance. Can't trust those Murphys. Yeah, when it rains, it pours, but talk about a perfect storm. Let's talk about anything, really. Exercise those vocal cords, or find excuses not to do that too. Not that that's something new. None of this is new. Sure, blame the storm for soaking my shoes, but I chose to leave my umbrella at home. But my hair looks so good when it's drenched in self-pity, and I hate my haircut otherwise. Awful, really. But I love my mom, and when she says it's gotten a bit long, I forget all her previous tries. I miss my hair. I miss how expressive it was, and joking about how hilarious it'd look if I fell down. I suppose misfortune is a bit funny when it's at my expense, but not so much when it's all of us, and a good laugh is just too great to bench. My second poem is called Pondering My Death. Maybe I'll have seen the world turn more than I deserve, with more hair than I deserve. Each breath, gravy. Audacious regrets. Please save me, I says. I take it back. Just take me back to now. Let me do it again, because it'll never be enough. A flame buried, unsnuffed. Dissatisfaction guaranteed. To die in a full tank of creativity, of love. Hoarded. Unable to trust, to share. I need the extra time to get it sorted. Maybe. Or maybe my soul explode and spread the magic evenly this time, and with fire in their eyes, live with the passion with which I died. Or maybe, in an instant, I'll just go. Poof. Done in by some rascal on the road. Thank you.
So my first poem is titled, I Can't Quite Explain This. There's no time like the present, no other time to find the lack of you. There's always space, but never time. The enigmatic field of debris tying every loose piece of me, floating. A tug, a word, a whisper. I'll only ever find me. Every moment exists now, and persistence is numbing. My second poem is titled, It's Eating Me Up Inside. It's the clasp, the image of a spine played like a piano, perhaps only once or twice, or maybe this only happens in the space between boundaries and juxtapositions, a moment's notice at land's end. My third poem is called To Crack a Mirrored Soul. Sickeningly sweet laughter slips past my peripheral, constricting my lungs and quickening my breath. The cold air hits, running through my body like a silkscreen, intercepting the very little rationality that existed, giving home to a flourishing desire, encapsulated, waiting to peek behind slurred gazes and rhythmic heartbeats. My last poem, The Weaver. What must a weaver do but sit on a throne and thread life into creation, weaving together the threads of missed opportunities and the beckoning calls of wisdom? Must they sit remiss in silence until spoken to, or breathe fiery winds into the sea, wreaking havoc on destined paths and wayward miscreants? For the world may never know of the weaver's truth, only the threads that keep them placed within such beauty. Thank you.